Hi, welcome to Tech Arcade. And we are continuing on with our Back to the Basics or Back to Programming Basics tutorial. So if you're new to programming, this is where to start. If you like my tutorial and this helps you out, go to my website, www.tagarcade.com, and click on this nice little button on the top right hand corner. So in the last tutorial, we talked about data types, and in this tutorial, we're going to talk about conditional statements. So what exactly are conditional statements? Well, we're going to create something where that if you press the left arrow, your character is going to go left. If you press the right arrow, the character is going to go right. If you press the up arrow, the character is going to go up, and if you press the down arrow, the character is going to go down. So if you notice, I said if you press left, the character will go left. So that is a conditional statement. If one condition is met, something else happens. So we're going to go ahead and create that tutorial. So we're going to open up Unity 3D, and we're going to go ahead and select a new tutorial, or sorry, a new project. We're going to call this tutorial, and we're going to say create project. Once this loads up, we are going to go create a new C# script, and I'll just call this conditional. I'm going to create a new game object, create empty, and I'm going to call this scripts. And now I am going to create a sphere, a 3D object, and I'm going to say sphere. Okay. Actually, I'm going to delete our scripts one. I don't think we're going to use that. We're just going to use sphere. And instead of calling this conditional, let me delete this. And I'm just going to call this controller. Well, I'll call it player controller. Okay. So the convention is if you're naming, say, scripts, you should start with a capital letter. And if you're creating variables, you start it with a lowercase letter. So that's the convention. And I like conventions, so I'm going to stick with it. If you don't want to go with conventions, you could name it any which way you want. But it's pretty much for anyone who's trying to, I guess, read your code. It'll make it easier to understand what's a script name and what's a variable name. So I'm going to grab my player controller and drag it into my sphere, if it lets me. Come on. Okay, click my sphere. Drag the player controller into my sphere. Please. Oh, I guess I now have two player controllers. So let's get rid of one. So I'm going to say remove component. Make sure I only have one player controller. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and open it up. Okay. So in my update function, I want to say if I press the left arrow, the character is going to go left. So we're going to say if input dot get key down key code dot left arrow okay, so this transform dot translate and we want to go to the left, so I believe left is 1 0 0. So if we're going to do left, the character has to move left. So let's go ahead and see if this works. Actually, that's not going to work because I forgot another close parentheses. File save. And hit play. Okay, so if I press my left arrow, my character is going to go left. 1 unit. Okay, so is that really my left? Let's see. If I look at my camera, and I am going to move it up a little bit, and I'm going to angle it down a little bit, and we'll play it again. And it turns out my left is actually my right. So let's change the code. So it's -1, file save, and here, let's see. Okay, so that's my left. It's now going left. So, let's see. So you notice when I pressed and held the arrow key, it only moved 1 unit to the left. So if I want to constantly move to the left, I can just say get key. So that way, if you hit play and you press the left arrow, it's going to constantly move to the left. Now I need to find a way to move my character back to the right. So I'm going to write another conditional statement. So if this is part of a grouping, you mostly will say else if input dot get key code dot right arrow, close parentheses, open bracket, close bracket, and I'm going to copy this code. So copy, paste, and I'm just going to make it go to the right. So if I save and go back to my code, I see that I forgot a bracket somewhere. Oh, I keep on forgetting to use 2 parentheses to close. So that's what if you notice when I have 1 bracket, you gotta look for anything with sort of like a red squiggly line underneath it or underscore. And you can see there's a red underscore here. And the reason for that is I forgot to close my bracket. Or close my parentheses. So the first set of parentheses is to around the word keycode.right arrow. And the second parentheses is over the whole thing, the input.getKey. So whenever you open a parentheses, you always have to close it. So let's go ahead and save. Go back to my code. Hit play. And now I could go left, or I could go right. Next, we want to be able to go up and down. So, else if input dot get key code. No, that's not it. Key code dot up arrow, and make sure I get 2 parentheses this time. I want to go up. Oops. So I am going to make this 0 and say 1. So the convention is the first one on the translate is going to be your x-axis, so left or right. The second one is going to be your y-axis, so your y-axis is going up and down. So in this game, I don't want to fly up and down. I'm not an airplane, so I'm going to leave that at 0. And the third one is your z-axis. So z talks about forward and backwards. So that's why I'm going to make the second one 0 and make this 1. So let's go back, hit play, and now if I press up, the character's moving up. Now I need a way to move backwards. So I'm going to say else if we go back, if we press the down arrow, we want to move down. So we're going to copy, paste, say -1. File save. And now we're going to hit down, up, left, right. Okay, now we're going to see if we go diagonal. What happens if we go up and left at the same time? Well, if you noticed, if you try to go up and left at the same time, you only go left. So why does that happen? Well, we have to go to our flowchart, or sorry, we got to go to our logic. So right now, if you press the left arrow, I am going to ignore everything else below it, because this is part of a grouping. That's what the whole point of if else is. So if this is true, I'm going to do this one statement and I'm going to ignore everything else below it. So to remove it part of the grouping, we just simply say if. So that way multiple things can happen at the same time. So we're going to say if you press the left arrow, you go left. If right arrow, you go right, so on and so forth. So we're going to say file save. And now if I hit play, unexpected symbol, end of file. So let's check our parentheses, make sure we open them, we close them properly. We do semicolon, or bracket, bracket, bracket. Where's my close bracket? Close bracket, open bracket, close bracket. Okay. Let's hit file save. And let's go back. There we go. So now what we could do is we go up left, so we're going diagonal up left, down right, down oops, let's go back in, up right, and down right. And if we press the left and the up arrow, they're going to cancel each other out, so you're actually not going to move. And if you press the up and down keys, they're going to cancel each other out, so you're not going to move either. So now we can move all range of motions. So that is a conditional statement. Okay, so the next conditional statement is called a switch statement. So you're probably never going to do something like this in code, but because I'm trying to explain how a switch statement works, I am going to do this very bad thing. So let's make pretend, let's go back, and we're going to say else if, else if, else if. Actually, talking about if else, if you, well, since with the directional pad, you can only go up, down, left, and right. There's only 4 directions. Since if it's not up and it's not down, sorry, if it's not left, if it's not right, and it's not up, then the last statement has to be down. When there's no other condition and you know there's no other condition, instead of doing an else if, you could actually save yourself some typing and just delete it and just say else. So if none of these 3 options are true, it will automatically do the 4th statement, the else statement. So let's make pretend this is what our condition is. You can only go in one direction at a time. So if you press up left, it'll favor the left arrow versus the up arrow for whatever reason. So let's go ahead and create a new variable, an int, and we'll call this direction. And we're just going to call it 0 for now. So we're going to say 0 means don't go in any direction. So I am going to comment this line of code out, so I'm just going to put a // so we don't run these codes. And I want to make sure that I am not running this code. So if I go back to Unity and hit play, I'm going to press up, down, left, right, and my ball is not moving anywhere. Wonderful. So get into the habit of testing every bit of code, or else you're going to get unexpected glitches. So what I'm going to do is, if I press the left arrow key, I'm going to say direction equals 1. to indicate my left arrow key. Otherwise, direction equals 2 for right. Direction equals 3 for left. Oops. And direction equals 4. For direction equals 3 is up, and direction equals 4 is down. So 0 means don't do anything. I didn't press any direction. 1 is for left, 2 is for right, 3 is for up, 4 is for down. So we're going to say switch, parentheses, direction, close parentheses, bracket, close bracket, and we're going to say case 1, colon, and if my if my direction is equal to 1, I want to move left. So we're going to copy and paste. And there we go. So I'm going to hit File, Save, and when I hit play, Control cannot follow out state through the case 1. Why not? Case 1. Why can't I do this? Okay. So, maybe because I need a break. File save. There we go, that's why. Okay. So, the reason why I got that error message is because I need a break statement. So when one condition is true, you need to say break to end the switch statement. So I'm going to do file save, and go back to my Unity, and when I hit play, and I go left, I'm going to go left. Okay. So since we know the coding for everything else, we're going to just copy it. So we're going to say case 2, case 3, oops, not semicolon, colon, case 4, or actually instead of case fall, we're going to say default. Okay, so we're going to say case 1, we're going to say case 2, we're going to go right, case 3, we are going to go left, and default, case 3 we're going to go up, and by default we are going to go down. Okay, and if we don't hit break, if we don't type break, I should say, we're gonna get another error message. So we have to put break after every line. And let's go ahead and test our code again. So if we go, oops, why am I going left? Oh, I know why. Let's go back to code, because it says if I don't press any direction, I am going to automatically go down. So, yeah, that's not a good thing. So let's copy, paste, and we'll just do case 4. So, yeah, that's why I said test a lot, because unexpected things would happen. So as you see, if you don't do code correctly, you see, unexpected glitches will happen. So I'm not touching any keys, yet my ball is moving on its own for no reason. And that's because I said that if I don't press any keys, I'm automatically going to go up, or automatically go down. And that's what happened. I automatically went down. So that's why I have to put in the else if statement. So now if I hit file save, and then play, let's make sure everything happens correctly. Press left, go left. Press right, go right. Press up, go up. Press down. Nothing happens when I press down. Because, why not? Direction 4, case 4, 0, 0, -1. So why? No. When I press my down arrow, so I accidentally had that as up arrow. So if I press my down arrow, I want to go down. Let's try this again. So left, right, up, down. There we go. Okay. So yeah, if there's a third option if you want to have a default option for here, like if it's neither 1, 2, 3, or 4, you could always add a default statement where that if none of these directions are true, it will do some other condition. So, for example, if I don't press any key, either up, left, down, right, I want my character to fly upwards for whatever reason. So we're going to hit file save, and we're going to see that if I don't press anything, my character is going to fly upwards. And there it goes. So that is the default statement. So if you don't do anything, it's going to do this by default. And as you saw before, in the else statement, you could just say else. If you don't do anything, you're going to do the last statement by default. You know, we could just say fly upwards. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of my default statements. So I'm just going to delete that. And we have our directions. Now, in programming, saying 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is really, really bad programming. Really, really bad programming. Because when you relook at this code, you may forget that 1 equals left, 2 equals right, 3 equals up, and 4 equals down. So, to avoid any sort of confusion or making mistakes, the programs introduce what is called enum. So, what is an enum? Well, we're going to say enum and call this possible directions. And we're going to do bracket. We're going to say none, left, right, up, down. And why? In unexpected symbol enum. Public enum? There you go. No? Okay, I know why. Because I can't have an enum in my update statement. So I'm going to say cut. And we have to put enums at the top. There we go. So enums can't be in a function. It has to be at the very top of, this is called a class, so it has to be at the top of the class. Um, okay. So now we're going to say possible directions. So instead of calling this init, we're going to call this possible directions. And we'll say player directions. Or we're going to say player input. Okay. So we're going to say if the person pressed the left arrow, we're going to say the player input. So let's get rid of this. We're going to say player input equals possible directions dot left. And now we're going to say player input equals possible directions dot right. Player input dot equals possible directions dot up. Player input dot equals possible directions dot down. Okay. So now to make this a little bit easier to read, I'm just pretty much going to get rid of my comments. So let's get rid of this, that. Okay. So now this is a little bit easier to read. If I press the left arrow, my possible directions is left, right, up, or down. You know what? I'm just going to get rid of the word possible. I'm just going to say direction. 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 Directions. File. Save. And why are some of my things red? Okay, let's see. Gonna go into Unity, and I'm missing something. Unexpected symbol. Ah, I forgot one more thing. Directions. Save. There we go. All the red went away. So now we're gonna say case. So we actually called. Okay. So now if our player input, right? So we're gonna do a switch statement on the player input. So if our player input is directions left, we're going to go left. If our direction is right, we are going to go right. If our direction is up, we are going to go up. And if our direction is down, oh, I forgot my semicolon here. We are going to go down. Okay, so actually, let's go one more unit over. Okay, so now we could see that this statement's a little bit easier to read. We're going to look at our player input, and if you press the left arrow, we're going to go left. If you press the right arrow, we're going to go right. If you press the up arrow, we're going to go up. And we're going to, when you press the down arrow, we're going to go down. So this is a little bit more meaningful than 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you notice that you're going to use like numbers to set different conditional statements, you should start using enums. And instead of using 1, 2, 3, 4, you start using real words to determine what you want to do in your code. So we hit File Save. and we go back to Unity and hit play, I still have errors. Why do I still have errors? Oh, why do I have a parentheses here instead of my curly parentheses? File save. Okay, make sure my errors went away. When hit play. So we're going to go left, right, up, down. And that is it. So those are all the conditional statements, and I talked about enums. So if you like what you see, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, have fun and keep on creating games.